Ghost stories are usually meant to be scary and disturbing. But it's a Christmas season, and I want to shine the light to a bit different kind of ghost stories. Just like people, not all ghosts are bad. Actually, some of them seem to be eager to help us. Now, I've already made an episode about guardian angels. In Korean tradition, they will be usually one of your late family member or ancestors caring for the well-being and lineage of the family clan. If you missed that episode, the link's in the description and at the corner of the screen. But the ghosts or mystery beings in today's stories seem to be a bit different from the typical guardian angels. They are either one-off, pretty random, or don't fit the typical role of a guardian angel. Could these stories be a proof that not all ghosts are scary? Well, you be the judge. So, here are 5 allegedly true stories from Korea about kind ghosts. As always, handpicked, translated and narrated by your host, Anthony. It's from when I was 9 or 10. My dad came back home late drunk and passed out on the living room floor. It was midwinter and chilly draft was wafting from the balcony door, but Dad didn't bother to get up even with my repeated shaking and telling him he should sleep in his bedroom. In exasperation, I looked towards the bedroom, and against the light from the room, I saw a child peeping half hidden behind the door frame. His face or clothes were too shadowed to be able to make out, but I just sensed he was a bit younger than myself. I didn't get scared because he didn't give off any malicious vibe, but his intense gaze made me shy, and I shook Dad even harder. When I looked back at him again, he seemed suddenly all agitated. He waved and seemed shouting something at me that I could not hear. But his fingers seemed to be pointing something behind me, so I stood up and turned around. Just then, the full sliding door to the balcony fell in. Fortunately, I could stop it in time before it crushed down on Dad on the floor. When I looked to the bedroom next, the boy was there no more. Dad later thanked me for saving him from the accident, but I didn't mention the boy who warned me. I never saw him again, and I still wonder who he might have been. I don't believe in ghosts. Or should I say I don't want to believe them. Otherwise, I think I would feel too uncomfortable, if not terrified. But I can't deny there is something, some presence around me. Calling it a guardian angel or something would be too grand, because what it does to me is nothing like saving my life from a fatal accident. They are all very little and subtle things. Most common example is, it would wake me up should I doze off during a class, by brushing my hair, poking at my side, and by fact I know it's not my classmates because the same thing would happen just the same when I'm sitting by myself away from others. The method of waking me up also evolved over time. Nowadays it would send me a message in my dream. Like, in my dream I get a message to my phone and it would read, "Wake up." And the moment I read the message, I would indeed wake up. If my memory serves me right, the presence must have been around for about 5 years. At first it made me scared. Imagine something poking and patting you whenever you doze off at school. I first suspected other mates, but I quickly realized they had no idea what I was talking about. Looking back, this presence did save me from a few other things too. All of them nothing grand. Like, occasionally if I'm not paying attention at the crosswalk, looking down at my phone or something, it would poke me when the light turns to green. Or on one occasion, I was standing on the street waiting for a friend, and I was suddenly pushed to one side. And then the next second, a bird dropping fell where I was standing a moment ago. As you could imagine by it waking me up should I doze off during class, I think the presence is pretty much righteous and orderly. Unlike me, I hardly ever clean my room, and it's in a messy state more often than not. And one day, in a dream, I found my room all tidied up and clean. I looked around thinking, is this really my room? Wow, it's actually not too bad when it's clean. And that's when I heard a loud sigh right in my ears. I woke up and started tidying the room from the very early morning. There have been a few occasions it saved me from unpleasant situations, though I cannot be sure if it really was the presence's doing. Once I was out to town with a friend, and even though I was pretty familiar with the way about the town, we strangely missed and lost the right way throughout the evening. Even on the way back, I took a wrong bus and the journey took at least an hour longer than it normally would have. By the time I arrived at my apartment block, there was a crowd of people and police cars. On a section of the road was blood stains all over. Apparently there was a road rage involving a knife. Had I arrived earlier, I might quite possibly have witnessed a violent scene firsthand. All the time, I was home early from school and playing a game on computer when a friend called me up to tell me to come out. The game was going pretty well at that moment, so I said no and resumed playing the game. But then the game started buffering, as well as the internet connection went funny constantly. I got so irritated that I quit the game and went out to meet a friend in the end. About an hour later, Mom called and asked me if I had left the balcony door opened. Had I? Surely not. Mom sounded so agitated, and I hurried myself back home. Apparently, while I was out, somebody broke in through the balcony. Our apartment is on the second floor, and it wasn't impossible for somebody skillful to climb up the gas pipe. I don't want to think what might have happened if I were home and faced the burglar. But the weirdest and somewhat touching anecdote is this. For a time I could not sleep well. It wasn't that I had nightmare or sleep paralysis, but I just felt so restless, tense, and anxious that I couldn't even dare to turn off the light all night long. After a full week of sleepless nights, I wasn't myself. My complexion turned grey, and I could hardly manage day-to-day tasks anymore. And on weekend, I just could not stand anymore, and almost fainted into sleep. In the dream, I was hugging on something so comfy and cozy. It wasn't a human, but felt more like a weightless cloud or cotton fluff. It comforted me, and for the first time in a week, I could sleep soundly. And then I happened to open my eyes and saw my arms floating in the air as if I was hugging something invisible. I would have normally found it weird and even got alarmed, but it just felt so comforting. I fell back to sleep till morning. So, yeah, I don't know what it is, and frankly do not want to find out. But there is something around me that is eager to do little good things for me. It was late 1998 when I saw the little boy in front of the train station. Weather was frosty with a touch of snow, and the early winter dusk was setting in. He was barely 6 or 7. Big round-eyed, but his hair was a messy, and his clothes were torn here and there. A group of older boys were bullying him, calling him a beggar, and the boy was almost about to drop a tear. I could not just pass by, so I chased the other boys away and asked the boy, "What are you doing here?" Silence. "Where's your mom?" Silence. "Come, I'll take you to the police." He finally opened his mouth after a hesitation. "Mom told me to wait up here." I heard there were organized beggar gangs using little kids to trigger more sympathy from passerbys, but I didn't get such a vibe from him. But I couldn't just leave him like that in the cold. "Do you have a place to go?" I said. No reply. "You can come with me if you want." "I have to stay here," he said. He didn't seem scared of me, but just very much timid and low-spirited. "Are you hungry?" He once again didn't say anything, but I took him to a snack bar nearby and bought a few things. It was time that I should go, but I still could not easily move on from the little boy. I wrapped my old scarf around his neck. "If something happens, there's the police station over there. They will help you, all right?" I assured him for the last, and left him in now proper dark evening street. Time passed, and it was in March following year. I loved riding motorbikes, but I could not afford buying one, so I borrowed a bike from a close friend for the occasion of my girlfriend's birthday. We took a ride to somewhere nice, had dinner, and almost to midnight I gave her a ride back home and was on my way back. It was late and not the busiest route, so the street was almost empty. I wanted to enjoy the bike before I had to return it back the following day, so I speeded up a bit, perhaps about 80 km/h, and I saw a bicycle overtaking me. A woman in white dress was riding on it with a little boy hanging on her back. They looked like a mother and a child. But wait, I was driving in 70-80 kilometers. How could a bicycle run faster than I? At that right moment, the boy on the back turned his head to look at me. It was him, the boy I met in front of the train station. He smiled brightly and waved hello at me. I don't know what took me, but I throttled up to catch up with him. I called out for him, though I even didn't know his name. It all happened so quickly. A taxi that was joining in from the left lane touched the back of the motorbike. It fell and slided with me and my left leg under it for a good 10 meters along the uphill road. When I could free myself from the bicycle wasn't anywhere in sight, and the taxi driver was looking down on me with a terrified expression. Fortunately, my injury was minor for a motorbike accident, with just a stretched ligament and a cracked toe. Police, doctor, and everybody told me it was a heaven's grace that it wasn't any more serious. But was it the heaven? Or was it the boy? I realized had I not seen the boy and speeded up to catch him up, the taxi would have properly bumped into the motorbike, or I would have bumped into the taxi head on. I think he might not be alive to appear that way. But dead or alive, thank you, little boy, whose name I don't even know. The year was 1983, when I was 6 or 7. My family then lived in a small apartment block, consisted with 3-story apartment buildings around a communal courtyard. My parents both worked, so during the day it was just me and my younger brother at home, apart from a few hours in the afternoon when a helper came over to clean and cook lunch for us. The doorknob to our playroom was broken. Well, it was an old apartment. The knob was missing altogether, and my dad just tied some string through the hole as a temporary handle of a sort. That spring afternoon, I and my brother were playing there as usual. Brother then said he needed to pee, but he found he could not open the door. Indeed, the string that functioned as the doorknob had somehow fell through, and there was nothing anymore. Brother complained that he was urgent, and as an older brother, though only by a couple of years, I felt I had to do something. I checked out the window. Our apartment was on the 2nd floor, and from what I saw from my then favorite TV series, it was a manageable height to jump off. I mean, all the hero characters of the drama series would always jump off from the building to escape from dangers. I could do the same, go around and open the door for my brother from the other side. Outside the window was a gravel-covered ground. Sky was blue and the weather was beautiful. Perfect. I hung from the window, ignoring brother crying and telling me to stop. And then I let go. I looked up as I fell, and I saw a person in the air. I don't know when he appeared, but he was just there as if he'd been waiting for me there the whole time. He was dressed in white with a long white beard. The distance was not close enough to actually recognize his expression, but I thought he was smiling gently at me. It calmed me down. Nothing bad could happen, I thought. I fell on my feet and dropped to my side. Pain was enormous that I could not breathe. I panicked, wondering if this was what adults called death. The window was to the backside of the apartment, and there was nobody around. For the sheer will to live, I crawled around to the front of the building, and just in time, our helper found me on the way to us. Fortunately, my injury was minor apart from fractured arm. For a few short days I was hospitalized. Nurses nicknamed me Mr. Superman and laughed among themselves. But I could not stop wondering who that grandpa in the sky was. I asked adults about it, but nobody took the word from a silly boy who fancied himself as a Superman seriously. Could he have been my guardian angel or an ancestor? Was it really thanks to him that I survived? My family home was a flat on a half-basement level, a dark and dingy place with windows with security bars. Anyway, one night I and my older sister were playing a computer game into late hours. It was all very quiet apart from the sound from the game. A ripping scream startled me silly. "Did you hear that?" I asked my sister. "What? What do you mean?" she said. What did I mean? Didn't she hear the loud, shrill scream? But I didn't want her to think I was mad, so just quietly turned to the game again. This time, it was my sister that reacted first. "What was that?" she said. I went outside to check if something was up. My sister was an adult and I but a teenager, but well, I was a man. I didn't expect anything odd, but was more annoyed that some kind of weirdo was disturbing the neighbor at midnight. I certainly wasn't prepared to face what was there outside the building. A woman, whose body was distorted in all grotesque angles. Her head was twisted backwards, her hands were folded the wrong way, touching her arms. Her legs were so twisted it seemed impossible that she was standing at all, and her eyes, where the pupils should be, were but empty holes. When one is so shocked, one just freezes. I think I just stood there for a good 10 seconds, taking in all the details of the horrible state of the woman. Then I ran, faster than ever before, squeaking strange moans. When I dared to peep out through the window, the woman wasn't there anymore. Instead, there were dozens of people dressed in white, all marching towards our direction. Except they didn't get closer despite their feet moving. These people my sister saw with me too, and we stayed up all night with fear. Fortunately, they were not there anymore in the morning. I don't know who the woman or the people in white were, but I noticed my life got luckier since the terrifying encounter. Could that have been a good turn of fate in disguise? A couple more incidents in the following seem to support that notion. A few years after the night, my family moved into a bigger place with 5 rooms. I was pretty excited to be able to sleep in my own room for the first time. But right that first night, I got sleep paralysis. I could not even open my eyes, let alone move my body. In my ears rang strange voices, and I felt pressure on my throat too. I'd never experienced sleep paralysis before, so it terrified me. I barely managed to stretch my arm out, desperately fumbling for the light switch. I managed to turn the light on, and with that, the paralysis broke too. I sighed of relief, but was dumbfounded when I looked around yet unfamiliar new room. The light switch was on the other side of the room from the bed. There was no way I could reach for that without falling from the bed. Who turned on the light for me then? Another instant was yet another year or 2 from it. One day I was on my way to visit my friend, who lived just about 20 minutes walk from my place. But just as I got out from my house, something whispered in my ears. "Don't go!" I looked around, but there was nobody. It said again. The shrill mystery voice sounded familiar. It instantly brought me back to the night I heard the scream. It was definitely the same voice as that of the woman with a twisted body. I panicked and just ran back in my room and shivered under the duvet. I think I somehow fell asleep there. It was my phone ringing that woke me up. The time was passing 8 p.m.
Are you home?
It was the friend whom I wanted to visit earlier.
Thank God you didn't show up. You know, the ice cream factory on the way to my place. There was some sort of explosion earlier,
He said. I quickly turned on the news and realized I could very well have walked past the factory at the exact time of the explosion had I continued my way earlier. Could that horrifying-looking woman have saved my life? Could she be some sort of guardian angel for me then? Hi, it's Anthony here, and thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. As I mentioned in the last episode, I wanted this year's last episode to be a bit more positive note, so I scraped the barrel to find more heartwarming stories. But I must admit, stories about kind ghosts are rare. Anyway, Merry Christmas to you all, my dear listeners. I can't believe the year's almost come to an end already. Unfortunately, it wasn't a very good year for many, but we can only hope the next get a bit better, at least. I'm going to give myself a week off for Christmas, and will come back bang on the first day and first Sunday of 2023. Wish you a warm and peaceful holiday season, and see you in 2023.